Hello everybody, this is Aaron from Souls Hold. Today I'm going to go through the parts list and assembly for the LPA Ray Blasters from The Force Awakens. Let's go over the parts list. You will have 2 grip frames, plates that go on the outside, each side. You'll have a grip frame that houses your trigger, your switches, your safety mechanism. It's got wire passages to run wires into your main box. You'll have a left and a right main box plate. You'll have both the top and bottom half cylinders for the main box. Top has the big barrel adapter hole, and the bottom has the bottom cylinder threaded hole. You'll have the top and bottom front plates for the main box. You'll have the back plate for the main box that attaches to the grip frame. You'll have 2 plate cover or box covers that go on the inside after you paint them black of the main box sides. We'll have a left and right grip. We'll have the bottom cylinder. You'll have the barrel adapter. You'll have the barrel tip and the barrel shroud. We'll also have one trigger bearing. You'll have 3-piece mortise and tenon safety mechanism. I'll explain how to assemble these, and you'll have the cover for the safety switch that attaches to the grip frame. So fasteners, you will have 2 632 by 5/8 for the top of the grips on each side. You'll have 2 632 by 9/16 for the bottom of the grips, because the bores are different lengths to screw into the side of the plates, into the main grip plate. You'll have 3 440 1/2-inch socket cap screws right here. You'll have 6 1/64 socket cap screws, these little guys. You'll have 4 440 T8 tamper resistant by 3/8-inch length. We'll have 10 T8 tamper resistant 1/4-inch length 440s that are button heads. You will have 2 switches, and you'll have 1 spring. There's the switches, and there's the spring on the spring purchase for the trigger. I'm going to start with the main grip frame. I'm going to explain what happens here. So you've got your trigger and your bearing pressed into your trigger. You have all your parts for your safety switch. That's doubled up, don't need that. Those 4 parts. Seat here. So, spring perch is on one side. The first part you're going to assemble, and I just put this on here, so disregard that, is going to be the left plate is going to go onto the main frame. To speed this process up, I've gone ahead and done that here. So I've attached that with the the 5/8 screw and the 9/16 screw, the plate, and then I put the grip on. And I fastened that through both the grip, through the side plate into the main body. Then these two small holes here are for the 1/64 3/16. You can put those on last if you want. You can put them on now. Doesn't matter. So now we're left with these open recesses and the spring perch and the slot for these safety switch, which is important. That's why you do the left side first. So you're going to gather, especially if you're doing an FX build, you're going to gather your parts that you need for your safety switch. So you've got the small mortise and tenon joint, you got the slider, and the slider only goes in one way. Goes in this way. Now this is important, and I'll explain why. So, and you could glue this and let the glue cure. You're going to put that mortise and tenon joint together on there like this. Put some glue in there, and this will all get locked in to the frame when you assemble it. But it makes it easier if you hold it upright. Now that's locked in there, that can't come off. Then you will take your slider switch cover, and you will take 2 1/4-inch 440 tamper resistant screws. You will screw the cover on to the main frame. Now, one thing to note is it goes groove side up. There's a slot cut all the way in the top portion of that. So now that's in there. And then this knurled part, you can glue this onto this tenon joint. It's mortise and tenon. This is the mortise and this is the tenon. Glue it on there, but don't get glue on it to where the slider actually sticks to the outside plate that retains it, just into the joint itself. That way it can move. I'll set this aside for now. And then I have a mock assembly of one already done with the switches inside. So bear with me here for a second. There's something to note here, and I will tell you in just a second. This hole, and this hole, these 3 holes, these side plates, are threaded in both plates, and they're threaded in the body right here. And it's just the one that goes through this side here on the left hand side of the plate. And that screw that's missing on this side, but it's threaded through the plate. This is the screw that goes through the bearing for the trigger to articulate on. But keep in mind, so these are going to sandwich together when you put these plates on. But let me stop for a second and talk about the switches. You're going to have to cut the bottom prong off the one switch so it'll fit in this pocket. Then you're going to have to find your adjustment and adhere these in there so the switches work. You see. Same here. You find your adjustment and you set the switch up to where it'll depress. Easier to do when you're not trying to hold it in the air. But that's for FX builds. You don't really need the switches or anything after you're just doing a static build. And something to mention here. There are one hole there that are not tapped and threaded, or that are not tapped. Those are wire passage holes. You'll see one there also. They go through the body, and you're going to want to use 32 gauge wire. You can find it on the internet, really cheap, because it needs to be small, and they're little tiny switches anyway. That way you can get all the wire from this switch up through that hole into the main body where your electronics are going to be housed. So disregard this plate being on there. It is important that, and I'll explain, that you mount this plate. It depends on what kind of driver you have. If you only have a short Allen key, you're going to want to assemble the main box differently. If you have a long driver with a long handle, you can get in here on the side. Explain why. Because once it's harder to reach in there and turn it, and it's harder to reach inside and turn these screws with a limited reach with a little Allen key. If you don't have these plates on and you're just going to screw these half cylinders to it first, and you'll be all right. You can do it 2 different ways, and then you could assemble it here like this, then come back and bolt it on. But it's going to be difficult because you got to get the plate on first because of this screw. Now these screws are going to be 440 of 5/16 length, and there's 3 of them. There's 3 tapped holes to go into the main frame. The bottom one, the third one down, and the top one. And you're going to adhere this plate to the main frame like that. Let me move some stuff here. There's a lot of little stuff. So we have that assembled. Let me move on, and we will put, so we have everything assembled. We got our trigger where it needs to be. We got the spring on the trigger. We got our switches mounted to where they're going to be permanently. So we're going to take these are the 1/2 inch 440 socket head screws. And we're going to run them through the body. And this is an important part because having both side plates in the main grip frame tapped and being in such close proximity to each other, you're going to want to squeeze them, because once they get through one part, they're just going to want to push the plate away. You just have to squeeze them. That way it'll suck the parts together like a sandwich. And then you have your stick out to be exactly where it needs to be, like in all the images and stills from the film. Let's see if I can get my trigger screw. This one's important. It's kind of difficult, especially if you adjust your spring for your trigger to be really tight. It's going to want to keep pulling out of the way. The last one. You don't want to torque these super hard, or else you'll strip the threads on some of these, especially the smaller fasteners. Just get them snug. What I'm saying is don't over tighten them. It's aluminum. So that's together now. Got that. You've got everything inside to where you want it. And then you would put the knurled safety switch facing to the left. Alright. Then you'll put the cylinders on. Okay. So we've got these cylinders on. Now the side plates, there's a couple things you can do here. You can set them on there, locate them. You don't want to paint these black and then weather the whole thing. You're going to want to adhere them. So you could temporarily put the side plate on. I'll get to that in a second. So you can temporarily mount this up. You can paint these black, then get them adhered where you want them. That way, it's in there. And then, you know, take the other side off and do that. Let it cure. And then that'll be done. And that way that you have them located exactly where you want them. So, the barrel adapter. This is important. Here's the top plate for the front. And you're going to want to put that on before you put the barrel adapter on. Like I said before, I have these interference fit. They have to go in perfectly straight, or else they won't go in. And they are friction fit. Now you're either going to want to A, put some glue in the bottom of that bore, and push it on. Or B, this groove right here. You could take a longer screw, you can have it, you can file it down to where when it's screwed in, it sits into that groove and it keeps it in place. It's very snug. So, just some glue would hold it though. That was an option. You can run the screws long and have it come in and locate that. The adapter to the shroud, you're going to want to glue this on. I left this so you could actually get some adhesive in there, something really, really strong. Loctite, I'm sorry, makes really, really great adhesives. And then you'll indicate, you'll align it where you want it on the blaster to match. So you can get it aligned on there, I'm sorry. And then let that set up. And then you can put the adapter in later. I would just do it. Put that in. Then adhere the barrel on. I went ahead and jumped ahead. You just take the barrel tip to the barrel shroud. Line it up. 164s. The little tiny guys. And don't crank really hard on the threads because there are super tiny little tapped holes. And one good over tighten and you will strip it. So just a little bit.